Yo, what up guys, and welcome to another Baldur's Gate 3 video. Patch 8 has finally arrived, and that means new subclasses and new builds. So grab a coffee and settle in as we go over the subclass I'm most excited about, the Giant Barbarian. I'm going to quickly go over the subclass bonuses and then give you guys a few build options. Finally, I dive into what I would really do on my first playthrough with the Giant Barbarian. So at level 3 we get the subclass. This allows our rage damage, which starts at 2, to be doubled on your throw attacks. You also get Thaumaturgy as a cantrip, and your carrying capacity is doubled. I actually really like Thaumaturgy because you can throw your charisma up to like a 12 or a 14 and scare people into doing what you want. The idea of this brooding barbarian that you don't want to be angry feels really cool. And then at level 5, we get the best feature in the class, the Boots of the Giant. You can kick a target away using your athletics. At max level with like Tavern Brawler, it was doing around 15 damage, and it looks hilarious. At level 6, we get Elemental Cleaver. This allows you to add your acid, cold, fire, lightning, or thunder damage to a weapon, and then it gives it the thrown property, and when you throw it, the weapon comes back to you. At level 10, we get Mighty Impel, which is a bonus action throw. It doesn't have any strength requirement, but it allows you to use a bonus action to throw a character. So if you're like a dex-based barbarian, this could be really good because it doesn't have that strength requirement, so it allows you to throw someone 30 feet. The best part about throwing people is the new animations. You do this really cool like backward suplex as you throw a humanoid over your head. It looks like WWE. It's fantastic. All right, so there's a few ways to run the Giant Barbarian. My first thought is to go 10 levels into Barbarian and then 2 into Fighter for the action surge and a fighting style. But this idea kind of seemed too easy. So I was kind of also playing with the idea of maybe like a wizard that gets really angry for no reason, and then he just turns into barbarian, starts raging and throwing crap at the enemies, especially a wizard throwing his wizard staff would be really funny to me. But I couldn't find a way to really make that work well with the Giant Barbarian. The bonuses, the mechanics of it didn't line up for me. But what I landed on was the Barbarian Rogue, this kind of sneaky giant barbarian that just seems like a hilarious idea, right? He just sneaks around and then throws something out of the shadows and just one-shot stuff. You want to start this build by picking up 6 levels in Barbarian, grabbing Tavern Brawler as soon as possible, and pushing your strength to 18. Level 6 makes every weapon a returning weapon, and then you can throw 3 levels into Rogue, choosing the Thief subclass to get an additional bonus action. This allows you to bonus action rage turn 1 and then do a couple other things with your other bonus action, like a kick or getting up a better position, or like jump up to a sniper's nest. Although I don't think we can honestly call it a sniper's nest when they're just angrily throwing weapons off of any high point we can get on. But with 2 bonus actions, you can do so much. You can kick twice, bonus action dash with an insane like double dash for barbarian movement. You could literally run across multiple screens. And then if you get to a really high location, Baldur's Gate gives you this bonus to attack and damage from high ground, which is really nice if you can just jump up to a spot, and having that extra bonus action kind of gives you the ability to move somewhere, especially with all the strength, you can jump really high. After this, you really have 3 levels that are kind of flexible. I don't think it's worth going above level 8 in Barbarian, but I think what I would end up doing is end with level 8 in Barbarian and 4 in Rogue, and picking up 2 more feats. So you can add +2 to strength, so you don't have to worry about having the 23 strength gloves later in the game. It'll push your strength to 20. I also like the idea of going actor, because then you get expertise in deception and performance, and you already have advantage on intimidation. With this, you can get through way more dialogue checks than I ever thought possible with a barbarian leading the party. But alternatively, you could take mobile, alert, or athlete. Those are all really good options. Also, I kind of did something a little cheeky. I didn't feel like really wearing armor. I thought it'd be funnier to just run around naked throwing stuff. So I respect my class and started with Rogue. Now, the only downside of this is, again, you can't wear armor. But what I did is I took a 17 in strength, a 14 in dexterity and con, an 8 in intelligence, and a 9 in wisdom. And then I put a 13 in charisma, so that way I can kind of talk my way out of situations. So with all these bonuses, I ended up with a 20 strength because we're adding 2 and 1 again, and then a 14 charisma. And Rogue allows me to starting with Rogue allows me to have expertise in athletics, which isn't really needed, but it's fun, and intimidation. All right, so now we are +10 to intimidation with rerolls. It also lets me add proficiency for like sleight of hand and stealth to just help lockpick. When you're playing that one character, it's nice to not have to switch off of it. Having those bonuses is really cool. And then actor gives the expertise and deception and performance, like I was saying. So this makes it to where like every deception and performance are plus 10. You have a plus 5 to intimidation. And you have plus 10 to intimidation and plus 5 to persuasion. So pretty much any check, you're pretty well off. At least you have a chance to get it. As far as equipment is concerned, I'm going to have to divide them up by acts. Act 1, you want to try to pick up the Ring of Flame and pretty much never take the thing off. You just keep wearing it the entire game. It adds a 1d4 to everything, and you can buy it from Aaron as soon as you make it to the Grove. He's the vendor as soon as you walk in the door. Now, Broodmother's Revenge is also really good. You can liberate this from Kaga. It adds 1d6 poison damage to your attacks, like your weapon attacks, if you've healed recently. And then the third item that I really like in Act 1 is the Returning Pike. You can buy that from Grot the Trader, the goblin guy in the goblin village that trades with you. Or you could loot it off his dead body if you're lucky enough. Because, you know, goblin genocide's always fun. And then at the end of Act 1, you can also buy the Graceful Cloth, which adds plus 2 to Dex and a little bit of jump distance for kind of maneuverability, little armor class, higher initiative. And you can get that from Esther just right before you go to the monastery. Oh, one more item I almost forgot. The Linebreaker Boots gives you Wrath whenever you dash. Now, that's not amazing right at the start, but once you get to about level, level 9, where you have the double bonus action, you could double bonus action dash, which allows your character to move 120 feet because you're a barbarian, and then you add plus 6 to every damage roll of attacks, which is absolutely insane from the Wrath. Act 2 has the Mighty Cloth, which will allow you to add plus 2 to the strength of your build, which is really good before you get that last 2 strength points because you don't get your second feat until very late. Alternatively, you could just never put those last 2 points in, keep wearing the Mighty Cloth for the rest of the game for a 20 strength. You also find 2 really cool weapons. The Lightning Jabber from the Koatoa, and this thing does a little extra lightning damage when you throw it, or the Corrosive Flail does a little extra acid damage, which I really like. Both are really cool, and then they just boomerang right back to you once you hit level 6. I'd also recommend Shadow Thief. Shadow Thief is a little ring that you can find off of the Shadow Dog. It's like Shadow Moustiff or something like that. And if you pick this up, you do an extra 1d4 damage against lightly or heavily obscured creatures. So if they're in shade, you do it a little extra damage. But the fun thing is, if you're using or at least if you're level 6 and you're using one of your elemental weapons, it also adds damage to that. So it's really like 2d4 damage bonus to it. And most people won't really want that. So if you're running a group campaign, it'll be an item that's really good for you, but maybe other people can't use it as well. All right, once you hit Act 3, the really powerful weapons come online. Of course, the Legendary Trident is probably the best weapon for this build, but the Dwarven Thrower is also fantastic, especially if you're going Dwarf. Adding an extra 1d8 or 2d8 to every single attack is really nice. You can also pick up the Bone Spike Boots, and this increases your armor class and saving throws. And then on top of that, when you jump next to someone, it makes them take a saving throw or they fall prone, which I think is really cool because if you have Thief, you're taking less fall damage. So you can be up in your sniper's nest, and then when you want to jump down next to a group of people, knock everyone down, you take less damage because you're Thief, and you knock everyone down. It's freaking hilarious. Another really fun option is the Slinging Shoes. Acquiring them is a little tough, but it's really funny to take a set of shoes and throw them at your opponent doing psychic damage. I just imagine some like grandma angry at everyone throwing their slippers at people and just beating them to death with mental damage. The last item, which I think they fixed, I haven't been able to confirm or find the actual issue that it used to have, is the Shade Slayer Cloak. That reduces the crit that you need by 1. Now, crit's not really the best for this build because you don't have a lot of bonus dice being rolled. There's a couple here and there, but it's a lot of flat damage you get out of it. And it could be really strong, though, if you took the 9 levels in Giant Barbarian to get the extra crit dice. And then on top of that, if you choose Half Orc as a race, now you've got 3 dice when you crit, which is pretty cool. Finally, let's do some final tips for the class. If you're playing the Barbarian class, you want to find high ground. You're going to do more damage. You're going to be better off hitting, and you're going to knock more things prone, especially if something comes up. Now you can kick them or throw them off. Second, is a Barbarian build where armor class actually matters because you don't recklessly throw, like you can't recklessly throw with this build. So your armor class is actually kind of important because they're not getting advantage on everything. So that being said, you can put on some medium armor and actually pick up a pretty good armor class. And there's some options in Act 2 and Act 3 that allows you to add your whole dexterity modifier. So you might want to pick up that, maybe the dex gloves. Also, be careful on opening with this character because you're not going to get the extra weapon damage until you rage, and you can't rage outside of combat. So it kind of gets in this weird loop where you don't want to basically start the combat off with this guy because he can't rage to get his weapon to have the elemental damage and return back to him. Also, you can change the damage type between each attack. That being said, if you're doing fire to one guy, you can change it to cold for another guy, or maybe if you throw some water on someone, then you want to change it to cold, that type of thing. Also, I tried Sharpshooter out. It didn't work. I was very sad about it, but it is what it is. Lastly, I want to leave you with one alternate build idea that I'll probably do a video on eventually. So with the 23 strength gloves, the gloves of giant strength, you can go Polearm Master and Sentinel for some extra damage and battlefield control, and you're going to get the sneak attack from having a finesse weapon as well. So it could be pretty interesting there. We'll see. If you enjoyed that video, do me a big favor and press that thumbs up button and subscribe to the channel. It makes a huge difference and I really appreciate it. We'll see you in the next one. Until then, stay safe and roll more 20s.
How would you feel about helping me kill some evil bastards? Black it's blessed.